Moving west, we now have more information about the death probe into Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa in their home in New Mexico. Gene Hackman's peaceful home held a dark secret, one buried beneath its very floors. When the FBI showed up and began ripping up the old floorboards, Mr. Gene Hackman, who was 95 years old, had died of hypertension and fatty heart disease. They were expecting normal proof, but what they saw shocked them to the core. Why did experienced spies turn pale when they saw what was hidden under Hackman's house? Stay tuned to find out the scary truth. Gene Hackman's first experience with Santa Fe was while working on film projects in the area. This is when he fell in love with the city's magic. Because of this magic, he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, decided to make that place their permanent home. When they bought the house, it needed a lot of work to make it livable again. Collaborating with the local company Studio Arquitectura, Hackman transformed the house to reflect his eclectic vision, blending southwestern architecture elements with personal touches. His newest home is on a 12-acre hilltop covered in piñons just a few miles north of Santa Fe. It has a view that goes all the way to the mountains in Colorado in every direction. After working on a few movies in Santa Fe, he was drawn to it. He says it was almost magical. He bought the land because of its location and then hired Santa Fe architects Harry Dapel and Steven Samuelson of Studio Arquitectura to help him make the house into the private space he wanted. Samuelson says the house was awful. It was an empty 1950s apartment building that had been falling apart, but it was a great spot and the base was in the right place on the ground. Hackman and his housemate Betsy Arakawa were not interested in restoring authentic Pueblo buildings. Instead, they wanted a room with lots of light and height, an open floor plan, and French doors, which aren't always easy to get in traditional clay building. So the house is a mix of different styles. It has elements of both Pueblo and Spanish Baroque styles. Smith says it's not at all conservative. It's more basic, like a barn that has been turned into a house. It's big and cozy at the same time. To make the house feel bigger, 90% of the roof had to be taken off so that ceilings could be raised to up to 20 feet in some places. Hackman wanted large rooms, so the internal spaces were rethought and walls were torn down to make that happen. 3 small rooms turned into the house's main room, a huge living room with columns made of tree trunks, ultra-modern stereo equipment, and chairs that were too comfortable to stand up from. To play the songs Hackman likes all through the house. I wanted a big room with a great hall feeling, with other rooms opening off it, not closed off with a lot of walls, says Hackman. It's totally different from my other houses. The Montecito house was very formal. Hackman brought a movie maker's sense of illusion to the finishing of the interior spaces. What he wanted was the subtlety of a house that has been finished over decades, gradually acquiring its own range of layers and patinas. The house is new, but from its newness we tried to bring it back 100 years or more, he explains. The plaster was very good, but I wanted watermarks, as if there had been leaks over the years. I wanted the plaster darkened in some places, as if by smoke. It took some persuading, he admits, to convince the plasterers that this was really what he wanted. But the result is walls that shade from one color to another, defining and shaping spaces without breaking up the feeling of openness. In the entrance hall example, teal gradually turns into tan, a color bridge between outside and inside. In the same spirit, new ceiling beams were rehewn, burned, beaten with chains and repainted several times, with layers of different colored paints applied and removed again and again. Hackman also wanted a traditional stamped tin ceiling in certain rooms of the house, when no commercially available patterned tin pleased him. A local artisan was called in to do exactly what he envisioned. Hackman was involved in every aspect of the house. He determined the floor plan for the architects, specified each detail in the kitchen, even helped out physically with the demolition. He's an accomplished painter, and he occasionally mixed colors on his own palette to show the workmen precisely what he wanted. Although he was on location for most of the time that the house was being built, Hackman remained in touch with everything that was being done. He's a deeply involved client, very artistic, very keen on details, says Samuelson. We had to call him and send him pictures all the time. We'd get a call in a few days if we didn't. Who is this? My name is Gene Hackman. Do you remember me? Also, Betsy Arakawa spent a lot of time on the site and talked to Hackman on the phone while sending pictures of the work that was being done. They didn't want the house to look like it was straight out of Santa Fe when it came to the furniture. Hackman says we bought some things in Santa Fe instead. Other things came from sales in New York, a shop in Germany for old things that Betsy and I found from Los Angeles. It looks good with both soft desert pieces and rough antiques. Their new buys as well as furniture from Hackman's Montecito house were brought together by Santa Fe designers Ken Figueredo and Glenn Gomez, described by the couple as our interior collaborators. Large, bright decorations connected the soft colors and shapes of Santa Fe furniture to the traditional style of European antiques. The house wasn't meant to be a museum of New Mexican arts and crafts, just like the style of the building. Moroccan spice shelves that are painted so carefully that they look like mosaics are some of the best pieces. The house was built to be a safe place for Hackman to go during the few months, maybe two, spread out throughout the year when he is not on site. These days it's more important to be comfortable and quiet, without having to deal with house guests and constant parties. He might load up his paints and canvas into his pickup truck and drive toward the mountains when he wants to paint. If not, he reads and listens to music in the living room for hours on end while the colors of the desert change and clouds move through the mountains nearby. In Santa Fe, Hackman adopted a way of life that was both simple and creative. After he stopped acting in 2004, he spent his time drawing and writing, where the peace and quiet helped him get ideas. He often went for walks in the morning, worked on his art in the studio, and spent the nights with Betsy, enjoying the quiet atmosphere of their home. Hackman could get away from the public eye at this getaway, which let him focus on his own interests without any interruptions. Hackman stayed connected to the local society, even though he lived alone. He was sometimes seen at local events and gave money to arts projects in the area, which showed that he liked how culturally rich Santa Fe was. He did, however, respect his privacy and made sure that his home stayed a private haven away from the busy world of entertainment. Who else lived in Gene Hackman's huge Santa Fe home with him? Aside from the peaceful landscapes and artistic solitude, he had strong emotional ties to his home life. Let's learn more about his marriages, the people who lived with him, and the other people who had an impact on his life. How Gene Hackman got married. Gene Hackman was one of the most famous stars in Hollywood. His personal life was full of love, problems, and finally redemption. First to Faye Maltese, and then to Betsy Arakawa, he was married twice. His journey through marriage showed the struggles and adjustments he had to make because he wanted to be an actor. While his first marriage ended in heartbreak, his second marriage brought him peace and security. In the early 1950s, when Gene Hackman was still having trouble as an actor, he met Faye Maltese. He hadn't made a name for himself in Hollywood yet, so he was doing a bunch of different jobs to make money. Faye was his secretary, and even though he was having money problems, she thought he had something special about him. They fell deeply in love and got married in 1956. They started a new life together by moving from one small apartment to another, while Hackman worked hard to make a name for himself in the movie business. They didn't have a lot of money when they first got married. Hackman often wondered if he would be able to do it. Faye was there for him and helped him out financially and emotionally while he went to auditions and took on small parts to make ends meet. Hackman quickly found love again with Betsy Arakawa, a classical musician, not long after his divorce. They met when she worked at an exercise center in Los Angeles in the early 1980s. Hackman, who was already in his 50s, liked Betsy because she was smart, kind, and really loved music. Their friendship developed slowly, and by 1991 they were married. In Hackman's first marriage, there were problems with his job and the split, but in his second marriage, things were calm and stable. He was already very successful in Hollywood, so he didn't have to show himself again. By moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico, Gene and Betsy were able to live a quiet life away from Hollywood. His first marriage was tense because of his fame, but his second marriage did well when they were alone together. They were together for more than 30 years, and Betsy gave him the company and support he had missed when he was a rising star. Gene Hackman was a Hollywood star by the 1970s, and his role in The French Connection won him an Academy Award. But there was a price to pay for success. Look around. How did Gene Hackman's unwavering desire for fame in Hollywood affect his relationship with his kids, causing years of tension and distance? Hackman has a complicated connection with kids. In talks over the years, Hackman has kept quiet about his personal life, including his kids. In 1989, he told film critic John C. Tibbets that people liked him because he seemed like a normal person. He said, "I like to keep my personal life pretty normal so that in my art one can let go and one can soar." Hackman reflected on the early days of his career on Larry King Live, when host Larry King asked how he was able to handle the transition from a sparse career to an illustrious one. "I didn't handle it very well, really," Hackman said. "I took care of my family. My family's never wanted for anything, but because I was so enamored of the Hollywood of old, the glamour of that, although I never involved myself in that, I was really so taken with that, the fact that I was part of that, and that I could be anything and anyone I wanted to be." Hackman and Maltese welcomed their first child, son Christopher Allen Hackman, in 1960. The two-time Academy Award winner sat down with journalist Leda Powell Drake in February 1984 for an interview about his film Misunderstood. When Drake asked Hackman if there was ever a day when he stopped hugging his son, then in his 20s, and opted for a handshake instead, he replied, "No, we still hug to this day, and I thank God that we are able to do that." He added, "I don't think we'll ever have a point where we have to shake hands," and I thought that was a big stretch in the movie. Not being aware of and sensitive to a child's need to be held by a father is one of the coldest things that can be done. In an interview in 2011, Hackman also talked about having kids. Asked if there was any advice that he gave to his son, the actor said, "I lost touch with my son in terms of advice early on." He continued, "Maybe it had to do with being gone so much, doing location films, when he was at an age where he needed support and guidance. It was very tough for me to be gone for 3 months and then come home and start bossing him around." While reflecting on his journey to becoming a novelist, Hackman shared his son's early career aspirations during a January 2020 interview with Empire magazine. "My son thought he wanted to be an actor at one time and was in New York, and I wrote him a couple of little monologues," he said. "I guess that's where I started. I really enjoyed it. Ideas would just pop into my head, and I would write them down." Hackman and Maltese welcomed their second child, daughter Elizabeth Jean Hackman, in August 1962. Not much is known about Elizabeth, with Hackman seldom discussing his family in interviews. Though he didn't specify which of his two daughters he was speaking about, he once shared a candid story about a tough period of his career. "In the 70s and 80s, I used to have to borrow my daughter's car to go to interviews in Hollywood," he told Cigar Aficionado in 2000. "I was just barely hanging in, taking pretty much anything that was offered to me and trying to make it work." Elizabeth also attended several events with her father, including the December 1978 screening of Superman, in which he played villain Lex Luthor at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. "How about playing Lex Luthor in Superman? You enjoy playing the baddie? It's great fun. I must say it's like a license to steal." Years later, in October 1996, she was photographed at the premiere of Hackman's movie, The Chamber in Beverly Hills, California, alongside her sister and her stepmother, Arakawa. Hackman and Maltese welcomed their third child, daughter Leslie Ann Hackman, in October 1966. Like her older siblings, not much is known about the youngest of Hackman's children. In 1984, journalist Bobby Wiggins spoke to Hackman about his movie Misunderstood and asked if the movie touched him more as a father or as a son who had a fraught relationship with his own dad. "They're almost exclusively with me to my children, in terms of how I worked on it, in terms of the misunderstandings between the father and the children," he said of his role. "My youngest daughter has seen the film, and she was very affected by it. But I think that she was affected because it was a film, not because I was in it. She liked it as a film, and she recommended it to her girlfriends, and they're going to see a screening of it this week. She was very taken with it, and I hope the older children are too." In January 1984, she attended the 41st Annual Golden Globe Awards with Hackman. They also went to the December 1990 premiere of The Godfather Part 3 and the March 1991 premiere of Class Action. Hackman gave rare comments about his adult children to the Irish Independent in August 2000, crediting them for his decision to continue acting rather than opting for a role behind the camera. After acquiring the rights to The Silence of the Lambs with the intention of making his debut as a director, he ultimately turned down the job, a choice he said he did not regret. "I don't have any second thoughts about that decision," he said. "My kids helped me see that it just wasn't the best thing for me to do." He also acknowledged that it was tough being the child of a celebrity, adding, "I couldn't always be home with them when they were growing up, and then living in California, they've had my success always hanging over their heads." Despite having complex relationship with Father Hackman's kids, love him so much, and are in shock at his tragic death, mysterious death of Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on February 26, 2025, leaving the world shocked and searching for. 9 days after legendary actor Gene Hackman, his wife, Betsy Arakawa, and one of their dogs were found dead in their 9,000-square-foot Santa Fe home. The circumstances surrounding their passing were mysterious, with many questions arising about what truly happened inside their secluded residence. The couple was discovered when a maintenance worker, unable to reach them for days, conducted a wellness check.
Peering through a window, he saw Gene Hackman lying motionless in the foyer and immediately called security, who then alerted emergency services. Upon entering the house, authorities found Hackman and Arakawa deceased, along with one of their 3 dogs. The other 2 dogs were still alive, adding another layer of intrigue to the already unsettling discovery. By the time officials arrived, their bodies had already begun decomposing, indicating they had been dead for several days. Investigators estimated that their deaths occurred around February 17, 2025, 9 days before they were found. At first, authorities searched for any signs of forced entry, foul play, or external injuries on the bodies, but they found none. The house showed no signs of a struggle, and no valuables appeared to be missing. A key question that puzzled investigators was why neither Hackman nor Arakawa had called for help. A medical examination revealed that Hackman's heart had stopped functioning on February 17, as indicated by data retrieved from his pacemaker. However, the cause of Arakawa's death was less clear, as no immediate signs of trauma or poisoning were detected. Carbon monoxide poisoning was ruled out after tests came back negative, and there were no gas leaks in the home. As details unfolded, experts and the public began speculating on what might have happened. One leading theory suggested that Hackman, who had a history of heart disease, suffered a fatal heart attack, possibly collapsing in the foyer. Arakawa, upon discovering him, may have gone into shock or suffered from extreme emotional distress. Some experts theorized that she experienced Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, commonly known as broken heart syndrome. This condition, triggered by intense grief or trauma, can cause severe heart dysfunction, leading to sudden death. If Arakawa had found Hackman already dead, the shock could have caused a rapid cardiac failure, leaving her unable to seek help. Another theory considered the possibility of an underlying medical condition affecting both individuals, though toxicology reports had yet to provide any clear answers. Some speculated whether they had an agreement in case of a medical emergency, possibly choosing not to call 911 for personal reasons. The case became even more complicated due to the condition of their bodies. The warm, dry environment inside their home led to a natural mummification process, making it difficult for medical examiners to determine a precise time and cause of death. Experts noted that such conditions can significantly obscure forensic findings, leaving room for uncertainty. Additionally, questions arose about why their home was so isolated. Despite having security and staff, no one had checked on them sooner, raising speculation about their reclusive lifestyle in recent years. Hackman had largely withdrawn from the public eye after retiring from acting in 2004, preferring a quiet life away from Hollywood. The sudden and mysterious nature of their deaths sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Gene Hackman was regarded as one of the greatest actors of his time, known for his powerful performances in films like The French Connection and Unforgiven. Tributes poured in from fellow actors and directors, with Clint Eastwood calling him a dear friend, whom I will miss very much, and Francis Ford Coppola remembering him as a true legend of cinema. Betsy Arakawa, though not as widely known in Hollywood, was deeply respected by those who knew her. She had been Hackman's devoted partner for decades, and their relationship was seen as a rare example of lasting love in the entertainment industry. Fans and conspiracy theorists alike took to social media, with some questioning whether there was more to the story. The lack of immediate medical help and the unusual circumstances led to widespread speculation. Though officials insisted that no foul play was suspected, authorities continued to investigate the case, with toxicology reports and additional forensic analysis pending. While the most likely explanation points to a tragic sequence of natural death, Hackman's heart failure, followed by potential stress-induced passing, many questions remain. Why was no emergency call made? Could there have been an undetected environmental factor in the home? Did their deep bond ultimately lead to them passing away together, unable to live without each other? As the world mourns the loss of a legendary actor and his beloved wife, the mystery surrounding their final days remains. Whether a heartbreaking coincidence or something more complex, their story will continue to be remembered as one of Hollywood's most intriguing and tragic endings. Investigators are baffled as they struggle to pinpoint the exact cause of death. But what the FBI is planning to do next will leave you stunned. FBI removes old floor from Gene Hackman's mansion. At a recent press conference, Santa Fe County Sheriff Daniel Morales addressed ongoing concerns regarding the investigation. I wouldn't say odd, but it's not normal to find 2 people deceased in the residence. That's concerning. Standing before a crowd of reporters, he acknowledged the unusual circumstances of the case, but remained tight-lipped about the FBI's exact findings. are working closely with federal authorities to ensure that no stone is left unturned. At this stage, I can't comment on specifics, but I can confirm that additional investigative measures are being taken within the property, Sheriff Morales stated. This vague answer made things even more mysterious. Just why do the police think they need to tear up Hackman's floor? Was there something hidden below the surface? Something that had been kept secret for years? Sources close to the FBI say that they decided to take out parts of the floor because forensic experts found problems in some parts of the house. According to reports, heat mapping technology found strange things under the wooden planks, which led to the idea that something might be hidden there. Officials originally focused on Hackman's and Arakawa's cause of death, which remains unclear. On the other hand, there were no visible injuries, carbon monoxide poisoning, or other signs of foul play, so detectives seem to be looking in more places. Now it looks like they think the house itself might have secrets. As word got out about what the FBI did, rumors began to fly. Some theories suggested that Hackman, known for his reclusive lifestyle in later years, may have been guarding a long-hidden secret within his home. Is there a room that's not obvious, a hidden safe, or even papers that have been lost for a long time buried under the floor? Some people thought this study might have something to do with Hackman's past. Because of his famous job and Hollywood ties, could there be something more going on? On some online forums, people even talked about the idea of secret documents, hidden wealth, or proof from a long-ago crime. Officials wouldn't confirm any specific theories, but forensic experts think the way the FBI is searching shows they are after more than just clues about the couple's deaths. Taking up floors isn't usually done during death investigations, unless there's a good reason to think something important is under there. Some possible explanations are: could there be signs of dirty play that have been missed so far? If there was a crime in the house in the past, the flooring could have investigative evidence hidden in it. Some older houses have hidden rooms built into the floors and walls. Could Hackman have kept something important or controversial from you? In some cases, forensic teams look at floors for signs of chemicals or other substances that could mean someone was poisoned or that the area is dangerous to the environment. Is this connected to a story from the past? Hackman kept his personal life very secret, and some people are wondering if detectives might be finding something completely new. Some lawyers say that this kind of probe could also affect Hackman's estate. If any secret assets, papers, or proof are found, it could change the court probate and inheritance cases that are already going on. Many people close to Hackman, including his family, have kept quiet, which has led to more rumors that something big is about to come out. The fact that the FBI is there instead of just local police also shows that federal agents are paying extra attention to the case. So the question is, what do they really think? The mansion is still locked up for now, while the police continue their search. Officials from the FBI have refused to say when their investigation will end, which has made many people wonder if they will find anything else shocking soon. Could there be a secret in Hackman's house that changes the whole case? And most importantly, what will the FBI find hidden under the floors of the famous actor's house? Could Gene Hackman's long-standing heart condition be the key to unraveling the puzzle of his death? We need to find out about his health because these new results could change everything. The battles Gene Hackman had with his health. During his later years, Hackman had a lot of health problems. Heart disease, old injuries, and the normal effects of getting older became big problems in his life after he retired. Hackman's fight with heart disease was one of the most well-known health problems he had. Hackman had a major heart attack in 1990 when he was 60 years old. This made him rethink his way of life. This woke him up and made him change his unhealthy habits and take on less work in Hollywood.